English was given double weightage. 10 years later, in 1973, mother tongue subjects such as Chinese, Malay and Tamil were also given double weightage.
Good afternoon, this is Mr. Roland Tan, your English coach. From learning the phonics to learning the basic tenses, your verbs, your nouns, your adjectives and your adverbs, we progress to PSLE, that is the Primary School Leaving Examination for Primary 6. Well, at Primary 6 level, you will be learning things like your subject-verb agreement, how your subject must always agree with your verb. For example, if you have a singular subject, your verb must have an S. A plural subject will have a verb that's without an S. You will also have to be very conversant with your modals, your present tense, your past tense, and very importantly, your past participles, your present perfect tense, your past perfect tense, and also all those exceptions to the normal grammatical rules, just like your infinitive, to, and so on. Now, after completing your 6 years of basic education, you are ready to move on to secondary English. Well, the main difference between primary and secondary English is about meta language. Meta language is about using language to describe about language. Language is something abstract. You cannot put a finger on it, and you will need literary devices to be able to express how the writer feels about the subject. You must be able to use literary devices to describe about language, meaning to say you are using language to describe about language. So in secondary English, you learn all the different types of literary devices like your alliteration, your metaphors, your ironies, sarcasms, your oxymorons, and your hyperbole, ironies, sarcasm, puns, and so on. Now, by the time you reach upper secondary, you will need to be fairly proficient in understanding comprehension passages, not at the face value, but also be able to read in between the lines to be able to infer what the writer is trying to say and how the writer uses special literary effects to convey those messages. And you must be able to do some extrapolation in trying to understand the logical extension of what the writer is trying to convey in his passage. Thus, upper secondary English is about interpreting what language is at a more sophisticated level. And of course, grammar still plays a very big part because you need to have sound grammatical rules to be able to do editing exercises for your paper one. In addition to your essay writing, which is normally of an expository type, and your situational writing. So, after 10 years of English education, you are ready to move on to your JC English. In JC English, you are doing general paper or GP. Well, GP is an extremely interesting subject because it's really about forming your own thoughts, opinions, views about topical issues and creating knowledge in the process of what you think, a particular, your views on a particular topic, having, understood the various points of views of different writers, contemporary writers, well-known writers, But you are expected to not just be able to comprehend what those writers wrote, but also to form your own views and in that sense to create knowledge within knowledge. So, for instance, you may have issues on let's say values. What I have here, example, is everything we do based on selfishness. Now, clearly, in this kind of a topic, there's no right or wrong answer. It's really dependent on how you interpret the question. It is about one's worldview of issues, one's philosophical bent on certain issues, and how you substantiate what you think. It is not possible to just memorize what some well-known writers have written on a subject. That will not do for GP. You would do well to do deep reflection, on a topic, so that you have some concrete views on a particular topic. And that's very important because as global citizens, we are expected to be able to interpret world issues around us and be able to critique, the pros and cons of a particular topic. And more importantly, how are we going to resolve the many issues that surround us today? Hence, GP is really, in its broader sense, a general knowledge on topics around us and how we make out those general issues around us, interpret them, and formulate our views on those topics. But more importantly, we are expected to have a very broad perspective. We must be broad-minded. In as much as we want to form our own opinions on a certain subject, we must, first of all, be able to accept the different points of views of many others, so that we can, put them together, assimilate them, and from there we form our considered opinions. So at the end of the 12 years, you are ready for your A-level general paper, which is usually made up of, 12 essay topics of an expository, discursive, argumentative sort, which you have to select one and write about 500 words. And in the paper 2, you will have comprehension passages and also application question where you are given 2 passages and you must be able to compare and contrast the 2 opinions of the writers on a somewhat related subject. So if you are able to master the intricacies of the language, the way to formulate your understanding of issues around you and be able to express yourself coherently and cogently in a manner that is not only persuasive but able to convince the readers that your point of view, even if it's not absolutely correct, is well substantiated and offers a reasonable explanation of the issues that you're putting across to the readers, then you have done well. Thank you.